Okay, hello everyone. To what we're going to cover today is the patch tool and the FX menu down here. So the patch tool is up here, and it is similar to the um, healing brush tool and the spot healing tool. It's also a little bit similar to the clone stamp tool that we talked about in the last video. But this tool has its own benefits, and so I wanted to show it in its own video. And I think that you'll find it useful in some circumstances and less useful in others. So similar to the healing brush tools, it is content aware. So it will do some blending and merging and smoothing for you, which it can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So the way it works is that assuming you have this at source, and that's the default, so that's what I'm going to talk about right now, you can actually click around and you can actually get this selection using any selection tool. You don't have to use this, but for now we will. It acts basically like the lasso tool, the non-polygon lasso tool. That's just a default lasso. Kind of click, and wherever you drag, it gives you a selection. And so we're on source right now. This would behave differently if we were on destination, but I prefer to leave it on source. The way it works is that now that we have this selection, this is the area we want to quote-unquote fix. So the reason I'm working on these is because they're sort of a classic, object on the cover in the way of other objects, and how do you get rid of it? It's kind of a classic Photoshop procedure. So the way it works is that you actually click and drag. And the reason it's not working is because I'm on the wrong layer. So I'm actually going to go to layer 0. So then the way it works is you actually click and drag. There we go. And I could actually get off kilter here, but if I hold down Shift, that snaps me to pretty much vertical no matter what. So you can see kind of what it's doing. It's copying from down below the bird, and it's keeping me lined up pretty well. And it doesn't look so good now, but it's going to look good in a second when I release the mouse. So here we go. There we go. So what it does is it actually patches in and replaces and blends and interpolates and says, okay, well there was some darkness over here. I'm going to patch that in, but I'm also going to take some stuff from down here. So it's a pretty useful tool. It doesn't work as well on areas like this. You'll see that it works okay, but not great. It leaves something wanting. So I'm going to hold down Shift. Oops. And I actually added to the selection. You want to hold down Shift after you start the command. So there we go. Control D. So you can see the pillar actually goes up into the ceiling now, which is not what we want. We would want to go to the clone stamp tool, hold down Alt, and start to repair that. There we go. I mean, it's not perfect yet, but you could make it perfect without much more work, and for a minute and a half, that's not so bad. So that is the patch tool, and it's very useful, and I would keep it in mind when you have procedures like that. So for the FX, might as well cover this in the same video since it's one of our wind-up Photoshop videos near the end of the Photoshop section of this course. I am going to zoom out a little bit there. I'm going to change this to a white background. I'm going to say Edit, Fill, White. Okay. I'm going to do a Control T to transform this down. And I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt. Shift is going to make it proportional, and then Alt is going to make it come from this center point here. It's going to zoom down to this center point. There we go. And that's fine. Because what I'm wanting to display here is the usefulness of this FX menu. It's not great, but it is something to know about. So I'm going to click FX, and we have quite a different, quite a diverse display of effects here: drop shadows, inner shadows, glows, embossments, satining, overlay, and strokes. We're going to go with strokes right now. And what this does basically is it will give you a stroke around the outer perimeter if you choose outer, or the inside of this perimeter, or the center of this perimeter on the current layer that you're on. So we could say increase this. Let's make this gray to make it stand out more. So you can see we're going around the outside. We have a rounded corner now because it's on outside, but if we change it to inside, there we go. So that's kind of how that works. It's a pretty basic tool. And it's pretty useful sometimes. I mean, it's a great way to do that procedure. There are other ways for sure. But we can also add multiple effects here, so let's add a drop shadow. Click on drop shadow. So the check mark says that it's on, and then if you click on the name, then it goes to that menu, and you can control it from here. So right now the distance is 1 pixel. Let's change that to something bigger, and let's change the angle to something else. There we go. And you can change the drop shadow color. So let's cancel out of that. But that's basically how that works. And if we say OK, we'll get the effect of drop shadow and stroke. We'll say OK. And so here they are. We can turn them on and off, either one by one or as a group. And then we can also collapse them and expand them with this button here. And we can certainly delete them and turn them off, and we wouldn't see them anymore. We would actually be removing them if we clicked on them again from this right-click menu. So, good. Go here. Okay. No more stroke. So, you can see kind of how that works. And it's useful, but maybe something that you want to stay away from getting too involved in, because it can look sort of like it's made in PowerPoint all of a sudden. I mean, they can be tacky, but they can also be very useful. So be aware of them and understand how they work.